This next screencast is about the demographic transition model, which is the diagram that we can see on the screen here. Now, this model explains birth and death rate patterns across the world and through time. It includes the main period of a country's development and shows the links between demographic and economic changes. As you can see along the top here, there are 5 stages to the demographic transition model. And they show a change from high birth and death rates here in stage 1 and much lower ones in stage 4, and then in stage 5 we actually have a natural decrease where the death rate has overtaken the birth rate. Now, originally the model was designed to explain population change in countries at further stages of development, but it's since been used to explain events in all countries. So previously, the further along you are, the further the stage, the more developed the country, but that isn't always the case now. It allows us to compare different patterns of demographic and economic development. Now, it's very important that you learn the characteristics of the 5 stages carefully and be able to identify the differences between those stages. You need to know examples of countries in each stage today and know when the UK was at each of the stages 1 to 4. So the rest of the screencast will be about those things. So, as you can see here, stage 1 is known as high fluctuating. The high fluctuating stage occurs in societies where there is little medicine, low life expectancy, and no means of birth control. So the fact that low life expectancy means the death rate's high, the fact there's no birth control means that the birth rate's high. Remote rainforest areas of Amazonia and Indonesia are the only locations where this stage might happen today. These are traditional societies largely cut off from the rest of the world. Now, the UK was at this stage around 1760 or before 1760, as you can see here on the graph. So the UK, when the UK was at those stages, along the bottom there, birth rates and death rates high up, low at the bottom. As you can see on the key here, the kind of the peachy colour is natural increase, where the population's obviously rising. The blue is natural decrease, where the population's going down. And you can see obviously the birth rate line, the death rate line, and this line here is what the total population is doing. So the population started low and obviously is very high now. Stage 2 is known as early expanding, and the key factor that indicates the change from stage 1 to stage 2 is this here, the decrease in the death rate. Now, this is largely down to improvements in medicine and hygiene, cure in some diseases, and also preventing others. So diseases that would have killed people previously no longer kills them, so the death rate has started to fall. Life expectancy increases, people living longer. The gap between the birth rate and the death rate results in population increase. As you can see, the natural increase here. So this bit of stage 2, the population is increasing, it's grown. The farther apart the lines are on the graph, the greater the rate of population growth. So at this stage, the population's grown much bigger than it is at the early stage of stage 2. Most economies in stage 2 are agricultural. Children are needed to work the land, so they help the adults do the job on the farm, as they need to produce more food than they eat. This keeps birth rates high, so farmers thinking obviously having more children can get them to work and help them out. From 1760, new agricultural and industrial inventions and medical discoveries in the UK led to the start of stage 2. So here, the UK was in stage 2 between 1760 and 1880. Next we have stage 3. Now, stage 3 is late expanding. The death rate is continuing to fall, as you can see here, but also it's starting to slow down. The key factor at the start of stage 3 is the decrease in the birth rate, though. As you can see, this top line starting to decrease. The birth rate starting to decrease, and it can often be quite rapid. This is due to both the availability of birth control, so obviously contraception and so on, stopping that from happening, and economic changes, which mean people benefit from having smaller families. Obviously, the smaller the family you have, the less money you're having to pay for things for those children. As a country develops, children become economic costs instead of economic assets. So instead of having those children working on the farms that you do in stage 2, if your country develops and you're not working in farms anymore, those children cost you money rather than actually bringing in money. When children have to go to school, they can no longer work, and their education may cost the family money in the long term. In the UK, the 1870 Education Act, which made children up to the age of 12 go to school at a cost of 1 penny a week per child. So the UK entered stage 3 between 1880 and 1940. Stage 4 is known as low fluctuating. Birth and death rates are both low. As you can see down here, the lines on the graph are close to each other, and birth rate varies according to the economic situation. When the economy is growing and people have jobs and earn a good living, they're more likely to afford children, so they'll allow themselves to have children if they know that they've got the money to look after them. In times of unemployment, though, and low wages, people tend to postpone having a family until times are better and they've got the money for it. In the UK in the 1960s, the economy was growing and the birth rate rose slightly, but in the 1970s, with the world economic recession, the birth rate fell again. Overall, there's still population growth. You can see there's bits growing here, but it's slow. Birth rates in the USA have been declining since a record high in 2007. It is thought that this decline could be explained by the economic recession that began in 2008. And the UK was started this stage post 1940, and we are still in stage 4 now. Stage 5 is known as the natural decrease, and this is only coming quite recently. Many Eastern and few Western European countries are at stage 5, but for different reasons. As I've already said, the UK remains at stage 4, but death rate rises, as indeed it has in the UK too, because the population includes more elderly people. Obviously, you've got more old people, they end up dying. In Eastern Europe, an uncertain economy discourages people from having babies, while Western European economies give young women so many career opportunities that they decide to be either childless or to postpone motherhood until much later on. It's for these reasons that the birth rate dips below, as you can see here, the death rate, and there's a natural decrease. The population is starting to decline.